Once the tinnitus sets in, then it's usually not long after that that the ringing in the ears becomes voices in the head.
Today we're going to talk about mental health. The World Health Organization defines health as a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being. Good mental health is a lot more than not being sick.
Lookoutfa Charlie. This is not normal.
So I want to clarify something from my last video about 1999. I showed parts of that movie, Heathers. And here's what happens. Basically, it's a form of parallel construction. Kids find it funny. They begin to wear trench coats as a joke or to be ironic or to throw that pretense around on purpose. And it becomes fashion, right? And eventually, the terrorists who build these narratives use the trench coat kids as a symbol for terrorism. All the while, it was Hollywood who instilled the idea in the first place. So I just want to clarify, it becomes parallel construction. So moving on. This comment was made after the fact, after I made the video. I was showing you how inaudible frequencies can create audible frequencies. In the video, I also show you that ELF can cause tinnitus. Ironically, while I was making the video, the mic was running while I was showing you these signals, and while these ELF signals were being pulsed in the air, what you would not be able to hear became a tinnitus tone while these inaudible frequencies were playing. So when I show you 7.83 Hertz, you shouldn't hear anything, but you do hear a tinnitus frequency in the room because I was playing ELF. I just want to tell you, what shouldn't be audible at all, you're going to hear like a Jingle Bells type tone. So, with that said, let's move forward. Let's talk about ELF, VLF, extremely low frequency, or very low frequency. I've received messages from people, and I've read comments in different places that, you know, people are talking about this ELF, and you can't hear it. So how are these people being affected by ELF? How are these people being affected by something that you can't hear? And it's really absurd. ELF can be very audible, and I'm going to show you how. It can also be used as a carrier wave. So the Schumann resonance is 7.83 Hertz. That 7.83 Hertz can have frequencies added to it, which it has, it's been hijacked, or it can be used as a carrier wave for other frequencies. You can hear low frequencies, high frequencies, many different frequencies due to ELF. And what I mean by that is ELF colliding into each other. You use different ELF frequencies, almost like a combination lock, to create other frequencies. What I'm going to tell you right away, if you are using real speakers to listen to this, something with a woofer, do not crank this up in an attempt to hear it, because it will blow your speaker. There is a chance it can blow your speaker. You've been warned. Don't do that. I'm only using this to show you. Here is 7.83 Hertz right here. Now watch the meter bar. I'm going to play this for a minute. And it is very loud. Very, very loud. Just like the recordings I've made with phones and other recording devices where you can see something very loud on the meter, but there is nothing to be heard. And it's everywhere. Everywhere. You are surrounded by something that would be so loud, if you could hear it, that it would literally hurt your ears. So here's 7.83 Hertz. Let's play it. Now, if you look at the meter here, it's very, very loud, but you can't hear it. However, if I begin to add other ELF frequencies to this, you can begin to hear it. This is 3.5 Hertz, which is another inaudible frequency, but you will begin to hear a beat. Let's listen to it. Then let's add 3.7 to that. And that begins to almost sound like rhythmic drumming. Now this can be low frequencies, high frequencies, all sorts of different frequencies that you can hear due to ELF that was inaudible to begin with, but when you bang these suckers into each other, you are creating an audible tone. Now with this particular piece of audio, I used 7.83 hertz, the Earth's frequency, the Schumann resonance, and I subverted that with a 10 hertz signal, which is 10 pulses per second. The Earth's pulse is 7.83 pulses per second. I added 10 hertz, and then I added a couple other ELF frequencies in there to create what people hear as a motor, an idling engine, what people describe as a machinery running, or the hum. It's all up to the volume of each particular frequency. It will literally change the beat by the volume, and it will change the beat by the frequency used. So these are inaudible frequencies, but when you put them together, they become audible. So let's check it out. If that was very low, to the point where it was almost inaudible, but you could just hear it, you would absolutely think it was some type of machinery or a hum or whatever. And that is just the Earth's frequency with 10 hertz added and a couple other frequencies added. So what you're doing is you're taking a frequency that is naturally there, it's always there, and you are adding frequencies to it. So let's turn this down to the point where it's barely audible and give it a listen. And the trick to these frequencies is, whenever people hear this, they have a hard time figuring out where it's coming from. If they walk to where they believe the sound is originating from, it will sound like it's coming from somewhere else once they get there. And that's the hallmark to this kind of frequency, is it always sounds like it's coming from somewhere else. It's just like listening to low end. If you just listen to low frequencies like bass or low frequencies in a house, maybe a certain corner of your house will reverberate these really well, and you may walk to another area to attempt to listen to it, but then it may even sound like it's coming from somewhere else in the house. It's just the way they operate, and this happens to people all the time. Now, there are a lot of cases where people go missing, and what they hear after they've gone missing is rhythmic drumming. And when you mess with 7.83 hertz, it can either alter the person's reality, affect their brain, or you have an effect on the surroundings, the actual surroundings. People and animals can become confused, or the actual surroundings can be messed with by altering these frequencies. But people mention afterwards and during that time when the person is missing, hearing what sounds like a rhythmic drumming. You hear this a lot. There's a case, and if you remember this guy's name, please put it in the comments, because I can't remember the guy's name. It was a Germanic last name, and he was at an outpost. They were studying ELF. They had these posts, and in between the posts they had rope going from one post to the other, because it was a long walk, and if there was a blizzard or something, you held on to the rope to find your way from one building to another. Well, this guy and his dog went missing at this outpost one night. And they were studying ELF, so it's almost like a cruel joke. Like they don't even understand what they're dealing with or studying, right? So this guy goes missing, and the dog gone. There were reports right during and after he went missing of hearing this rhythmic drumming. Now, to me, it was obvious what it was. It was ELF. But I don't know why, but people don't seem to put that together. This is a great example. In this example, I used 3 and 4 hertz ELF, and I combined them together to create what would sound like rhythmic drumming. Now, in cases before this, before that dude, there were old cases where people heard rhythmic drumming. If they hadn't heard anything else and weren't experienced in modern sounds, they would absolutely think this was some type of drumming. Let's give it a listen. I could go way deeper into this, but I will refrain right now. These are inaudible signals. Inaudible signals, but when you put them together, they become audible. People have a hard time understanding how this voice of God type weaponry works, and this is why the tinnitus becomes a factor. One person out of a group of people begins to get this carrier frequency, we'll say, in their ear, an artificial tinnitus, and then suddenly they are the only ones that are hearing these commands or phrases or sentences or just talking like a cell phone call that they cannot hang up on, because that carrier wave, that artificial tinnitus, is working as a frequency to create these beat frequencies off of. And there are probably other ELF frequencies that the person cannot hear in their ears as well. So you are taking frequencies that are totally and completely inaudible by themselves and putting them together and creating things that can be heard. And one of the most suspect things about all of this is ELF causes artificial tinnitus. Flat out, ELF can cause tinnitus. So this can all be done via ELF. The possibilities with something like this are almost completely limitless. I'm going to keep this pretty pedestrian, but I'm telling you, the possibilities are limitless. Your organs and everything operate off different ELF frequencies. And why are birds and whales and all these different animals being messed with? Because they need that 7.83 hertz. They need the unmolested earth frequency to guide them, to use, to sense danger, all of this. It's a hidden communication frequency, if you will. And now it's been completely hijacked and subverted. So yes, one ELF frequency by itself, like this 3.7 hertz signal, is totally inaudible by itself. Even if it's this loud, you can't hear it. But different combinations of different ELF frequencies create audible tones. And they can vary. You can turn them into what sounds like pulsed voices or drumming. All kinds of different sounds. And if you do it properly, and I have different examples of this, I'll make a video soon, you can even get them to begin to sound like talking. So hypothetically, let's say that you bombard somebody's house. Let's say you bombard Joe Blow's house with all sorts of ELF frequencies. And then when he begins to hear it, it's just a matter of figuring out which one he is hearing. And then you begin to tailor his experience around the ELF frequencies that he is hearing. It's that simple. And that's it for now. Look out for Charlie.
I don't like the world now. I mean, before I always knew I was a son of a bitch. But now I'm the only son of a bitch I know. Hey, make way for a real human being. Get out of the way, yeah.
Look out for Charlie.
I want that son of a bitch dead. I want him dead.